Hi, and welcome to Author Conversations. As usual, I'm Chris Dabbs, and today we're joined by a very special guest called Hans Peter von Liechtenstein. Now, Hans Peter is a historian, a researcher, and author dedicated to exploring the hidden connections between history, faith, and human origin. Now, with more than 23 years of continued study, over 4,200 pages of research, and 14 published and forthcoming works, his writing challenges conventional, historical, and spiritual narratives. Now, this is done through a combination of ancient sources, archaeology, and philosophical insight. So, through works examining figures such as Jesus, Moses, Noah, and King Solomon, Hans invites readers to question established beliefs and kind of rediscover perspectives that have been overlooked or forgotten across time. Now, his mission is to encourage deeper understanding, independent thought, and a renewed exploration of humanity's spiritual and cultural foundations. Now, I've got to say, after all of that, I'm just going to hand over to you, Hans Peter. How are you? It's good to meet you.
Hi, Chris, and bless you all. This is amazing. First, how good you spell the name. It's really amazing. And the second, if you said some words, I got goosebumps all over my body. So I think this will be an amazing conversation together. I will like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. There's some great energy here. Yes, you're right. Okay, so here we go then. Let's get into this. Your book is called The Jesus Twins, right?
It's one of the books, yeah.
Now, okay, all right, excellent. So I think that's the one we're talking about today.
Yes.
So what inspired you to write The Jesus Twins? And why did you feel that this story needed to be told, well, particularly now?
This is a really interesting question. Frankly, I have to tell you, I didn't wrote that book by myself. I would say it was written through me. I think this would be more specialized on the point. So I hadn't even had the idea to write this one day before. It was the same like with Noah. It was the same with Moses. So, you know, it's for some people it sounds weird because since my near-death experience with 6 years, I have a special ability, and my wife too. So Jesus and Maria Magdalene, I'll tell you like it is, asked us to write this book, to write his book, to put the messages which came to us, his life, his work, in a new light, in a right light for me, because I would say much have been changed, possibly misinterpreted or distorted. Furthermore, all the protagonists, including Jesus himself, deserve to have, I would say, their truly extraordinary and magnificent impact corrected. And their souls gilded with, I would tell you the truth, I would call it. So the point is that the new golden age, where a lot of people are talking about, we are about to enter, or we are actually living in, must be filled with truth. The greatest weapon on earth, some people, I ask, what is the greatest weapon on earth? Is it the sword? Is it the fire? Is it an atomic bomb? I don't know. So I would tell you it's the history. Because under the pen of the right chronicler, a villain can become a hero. We know that. This is history. Just a side note here. Here's another clue to the falsification. As an example, in the Egyptian texts, is only as an example, you know Herod. Herod is a name everybody knows from the Bible. In the Egyptian texts, which were much older, thousands of years older, Herod persecuted an infant named Horus. So in the Bible, we have a Herod persecuted the infant Jesus. Herod or Herod simply means nothing else than hero. That's the right translation. Nothing more than hero. It means hero in Germany too, in our language. So
Can
Herod or Herod means simplify, nothing more or less. And that's not a name. It's a label. It's a symbol. It's a synonym for something. As example, Pontius Pilate too. This is not a name. In reality, it's a label. It's the same with many names in the Bible, even the name Jesus himself. This is interesting because this was his given name and his birth name was much more different. And so we make the decision to say, okay, we write this book and let's see what comes. We never had an idea what was coming. We never had an idea what the researchers brought to the surface. We never thought it, but it was amazing what we found out. So I would say whoever controls the present and the future is the person who made the history or rewritten the history. And that's why it's now crucial that we shout. It's like in the Bible, we have to shout the truth from the rooftops. What in the past once whispered in the alleys.
And I guess it had to be, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. There's a lot there to think about. I mean, if you were to, gosh, how can I speak? I can't even speak. I think that that's quite a revelation. So let's look at the biggest one that you think you just said just now. So you're saying that Jesus' name wasn't necessarily his real name? Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay, we may well get to that later on. And you've also said something about Herod meaning something else, and you're saying that these names are basically what's the best way to put it? Well, labels, as you put it, really.
I could give you an example if you want for the name Jesus, because the reality is that every word we speak out today is not a word. Every word we spoke out is a sentence. It has a meaning. Every word has a meaning in his creation. So this means if we if we cut the name of Jesus, we have some letters. We have the J, the E, the S, the U, the S. So you have to know that in the antique Rome, at this time exists no J. He never was written with a J. So in the past, in the antique Rome and all these areas, they wrote the J as an I, like Julius, Julian, Julia, everything with an I, not with a J. Later comes the J. But at this time, it only exists the I. So we can remove the J and put in the I. So we have Jesus with an I. And the Arab people call him Isa, also with an I. The old Celtic people called him Jesus, also with an I. Jesus, the Celtic people called him, means in German, ich heiße. This means I am. The French people today say to I am, je suis. They say Jesus. Though if you put the I, you have it in English too. I means I am, I, my person. And if you see the S, this means on the old traditional way, your soul. I am my soul. I am. Something is. In English, we have the is, I-S. It's like Isis, the Egyptian goddess, like Isis, like Ishtar, like we have an Osiris, and a lot of words in the whole world. This is the meaning of is. And the ending of Jesus is US, US. This is typically for this time because all the Roman names from Roman humans which were male were Marcus, Antonius, Julius, Augustus, Pilatus. They all end with the US, US. That's typically for this time. This means also because you, in English, you have it too. You say us to a community, to we, to you and me. We are us. Though the name Jesus means nothing else than I am. And also we are. This is what God is. God is inside of us. God is we. God is you. God is inside of us. And this is the symbolic meaning of this I-S-U-S. It's really interesting. But it's only but we are only on the surface because etymology is a really, really interesting topic.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. And actually, as soon as you said about Latin not having J, or at least ancient, or any Latin, I suppose. Italian, of course, which is direct root, right, or has come from it, doesn't have a J either, right?
No.
Exactly. That was a good point.
It's interesting.
Okay, so why did you choose to present these ideas as a novel instead of a non-fiction, spiritual, or historical book? Because surely some people would love all these facts, like we've been saying in the last few minutes.
Yeah. Oh, this is a really hard question, but it have a really simple answer. The truth eludes most people because of their disbelief. True history is far more compelling, that's my opinion, than any conspiracy theory. The existing narratives and dogmas, let's call it this, have been cemented for over 2,000 years. So it's not easy, making it incredibly difficult to tear down old walls and establish new ones. The truth can sometimes be painful, you know that. We all know that. Sometimes the truth is painful, and many people have built their lives around their own bubble, their own suffering. That's normal. We people do that. Yeah, not knowing who they truly are. Yeah, who I am. And we have experienced through countless letters from readers, from thousands in the past, because this book, Jesus Twins, also, I wrote 6 years ago in Germany. So we had 6 years to see what do the people think about that. We have thousands of letters from readers that many begins to remember. Really, they remember. They recognize. And again, thereby recognize their true selves. Something is, I would say, something is activated in them, a kind of spark that sets a process in movement and motion. Therefore, it's important, I think, that we present this book as a novel. It's really important because as a fictionalized version of history, everyone now has his own opportunity. Everybody can make decisions by himself to draw his own personal truth out of it, which could be truth, which could be fiction. And furthermore, and this is important, it makes it, and this is one really important thing, it makes it unassailable and untouchable by certain institutions. Because I would think we would have much more problems if I would publish it as a historian book. And so we can let it go. Because we found really a lot of proofs in historical texts that something was wrong or is rewritten. 100 years ago, if I would read the books of death in Egypt, I had to travel to Egypt about a ship or something else, about weeks. I have to go to the temples to study the texts or the bibliotheques. I have to have a translation or a translator and all this stuff. Yeah, it needs months and years over researches to connect the points. Today, it's the best time ever the humanity had to do that because we have the microfilms, we have everything in the web, yeah, we have everything readable, we have it translated. I can go on the internet and can read the Egyptian Book of Death. This is amazing. We never had this opportunity before in our life or in the complete humanity. And this is amazing. So I think actually is the time to think another way, to take more, to put more questions in the field. This is really important. In my book of King Solomon, I said that the third temple, or the old second temple, never was in Jerusalem. I say it was in Spain. So we have 200 archaeological and historical inscriptions where we had proofs. But we have in Jerusalem not one outer biblical proof. This brings some questions in the field we have to do, I think. It's only our thing that we are here on earth to ask questions. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think you're right. I think you are interesting. I've heard quite a lot about some history of religions and things being in different areas. But if you hang on, there's especially something about something in Spain. Just trying to remember what it is, but anyway, I can't really remember. I know that, for instance, we have the popes in the Catholic Church being more than one pope. Yes.
Yes.
So that could well be true, couldn't it? So if you're thinking about trying to sort of bring people into your book without causing too many problems, I guess, by not having a historical book rather than go for the fictional side of things, who is the ideal reader for the Jesus twins? I mean, is it anybody, or is it someone who is already interested in religion and history?
Yeah, I would say I didn't want to generalize it because basically anyone has realized that sometimes religion isn't the same as faith or believing. For a lot of people today, it is a different thing. Yet what the church created, yeah, Jesus wanted never a church and all this stuff, but they are believers too. They believe in Jesus Christ. So a lot of people today do not believe in religion, but in Jesus Christ. This is a really different thing. So Jesus never intended to creation a religion. This is what he never said, because it's just an institution concerned with faith. But faith can take many forms and be individual for everybody in the world. Your believing can be individually. I talk to Jesus not with prayings from the Bible. I talk to him like a brother, This is my way. So everybody do it another way. Even as a child, I prayed a lot to God and Jesus. This was interesting because my family didn't do that, but I did it as the only one after my near-death experience with 6. But I know that I never quoted from the Bible. Instead, I spoke, as I said, to him my own words. Personally, privately. This is, I think, really important, yeah? And every person with an open mind should feel invited to convince himself to read, to acquire knowledge and his own wisdom, instead of simply following the guidelines that a system provides. This is what I think. Everybody have to find his own way of believing. And so the ideal reader, I cannot say who's the ideal reader. I would say everybody who's searching for his self, for herself, to find God. It's my newest book. The name is Finding God, and have questions. And the Bible himself has 4 Gospels. These are the ones they took in this book. But a lot of people did not know, or they do not know, that there exist 27 Gospels. Also the apocryphal Gospels. And if someone wants to discuss with me about the Bible, because it's not possible, well, they say every word is God's word. It's nothing rewritten from a human person. You cannot discuss. It's not possible at that moment. It's a dogma, it's a narrative. And I recommend in this point to say, okay, so I would suggest that you read another 23 Gospels too, and then after that we came together, okay? Let's make it this way. I don't know. Because you will see that will open your mind. Because knowledge gives you wisdom, only knowledge, to make the right decisions for you in your life.
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting actually when you talk about people who take the words of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament as completely true, and there cannot be any mistakes in it because it's God's word, or the Holy Spirit has pushed the writers towards it. And yet, as you say, there are other gospels around, and then so that opens up a whole debate about that,
Yes.
doesn't it? So it's quite interesting, really. Yeah, gosh, you must have had a really good time sort of researching this and putting it together. So, what makes the Jesus twins different from other books about Jesus? Ancient history or spiritual awakening. Obviously, I'm drawn towards some other books that have been made into movies
Yeah.
in the last, couple of decades or something.
I would say there exists multiple thousands of books about Jesus in the world. Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, there are many points we could mention. Yes, there are a lot of other books as well. Absolutely. I admit that my book isn't easy to read. It's what I really say. It's not easy to read because it not only contains a wealth of hidden wisdom and knowledge. This is really inside too. I read the Sumerian cuneiforms and all this stuff and the Mesopotamian scripts from ancient texts, from texts in Ireland. It's really interesting too, from Egypt, which are more relevant. Vicky, would say more relevant than ever for our times. But it also reveals that we can find all the protagonists from the Bible really in the Roman records. It's what I said, under different names. We found and identified them in the book. So we've published also family trees and illustrated. And so you have a look at them more than once to see the connections. It was really important for me because there are a lot of different names and you have to combine it, you have to connect the points. And so I made these family trees. So it's really complex. But we have around, meanwhile, more than 250,000 readers in Germany, in the German-speaking countries like Austria and Switzerland. And they have recognized this and are really responding strongly. I'm curious to see how the English-speaking audience will react in the future. This is really interesting. I would love it. Furthermore, I think there's a very special aspect to this. Also, my wife and I, we were, I will tell it like this. My wife and me, we were present during this event. I would say we were eyewitnesses in past life, and we are not just reporting, and this makes this book special, we are not just reporting historical researches, but also connecting it with our own memories from regression therapies and all this stuff. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
And then after that, we searched for historical proofs of that. So we combine all this together, archaeology, etymology, the scripts himself, what we could find. So yes, it is an extraordinary and a unique book because it tells a different story. One that did not take place where we are told. And the stories have been partially relocated. Names were changed. And we have many clues and pieces of evidence for this in the book. So look for yourself and read it for yourself and make your own picture for that and your own thoughts about it.
Do you know what? That sounds absolutely. You mentioned something about not having conspiracy theories, but it sounds like it should be something that you're going to read it, yes, but you're actually thinking about why all of this has happened. Is it a mystery? Is there a conspiracy theory behind it? Why am I reading this? Is it because I want to see the spiritual side or the religious side? There's so many aspects to this, I think, Hans Peter, isn't there?
But you really have to know that there is a conspiracy theory behind it in the Jesus story. I don't know if you know that, but I think some years ago, there were two book authors from Canada, one Jewish and one Christian, and they published a book. They found a gospel in Syria from the 4th century after Christ. And in this book and in this gospel, they talk about that Jesus knows a lot of the secrets in Rome from the emperor himself. So he was involved in high politic situations and high politic conspiracies because this was a really, really hard time. It was the time of Emperor Augustus, and it was a fight for the throne. There were a lot of families murdered, killed for the truth. And so he was, this is what this gospel said, involved in some of these things. And this is exactly what we found out too. And I reveal in the book in which conspiracies he was involved. It has a sense. It has a meaning And it has, you have to think about, why did they kill 11 of the 12 disciples? Why such a lot? And the Christianity himself was at this time not really big. It was a movement, yes, but it was not so big that it was dangerous for the Roman Empire, or it was dangerous for the Jewish believing himself. Not so big that they have to kill such a lot of people, but they did it. What is the real reason about that? This is what we asked, and we searched for proofs, for hints, for clues of all this. And we found a lot of things which we reveal in this book.
You've really got me thinking now. You really have. You're right though, aren't you? If they got rid of all of those people for something that was literally just a bit of a movement, perhaps there is something behind all of this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but let me ask you one last question, right?
Yeah.
So your readers, when they finish your book, what do you want them to come away with? What question, what feeling, what thoughts do you want them to come away with?
Wow, that's a really good question for a last question. Look, Chris, this question is also, I think, a personal question, and it can be different for everyone. This book does something we saw it in the last years. It does something with the people that can be every time individual. Did Jesus, for example, died for our sins? I don't think so. I think this is a narrative, and I wrote about it, but you can make your own. He thought personal responsibility. That's what he taught in his scripts. Personal responsibility. And every person, is what he said too, can activate his own Christ within and forgive themselves with God's help. And what were his truth teachings is also a question, which are much older than Jesus himself. This also concerns the teaching, as an example, what the old high priest taught in Egypt did. If you combine these two scripts and read what he wrote and what Jesus wrote, you would think that what Todd wrote Jesus. It's really interesting. And some Mesopotamian scripts also. In our more recent book, Finding God, as example, my new one, but it's not actually in English available, about the messages of the high priest, you can read more about that. But the word Christ also, for example, or Christos, Christ, the anointed one, whatever, can also be found, we have to think about that, on the tomb of Tutankhamun. We can find this word on the tomb of Tutankhamun, which is thousands years older. Question might be, is there more than what we are told? Do I carry the Christ within me? Different questions. It's about recognizing, it's about, I think, understanding and questioning things themselves. Jesus and Horus, and that's true, had more than 200 undeniable similarities. Who compiled and restructured these narratives, this story? This is a question. Borrowing, I don't know, from another teachings and rewritings? He has more human. He was more human than I think some people think. And so I'd call him ever my brother, yeah? Because you have to know, there was one people, it was after Christ, there was a people, they call him Clement of Alexandria in Egypt. And it is described, and it is a fact that you can read, that the church later comes to this Clement of Alexandria to borrow. Some people would say fairy tales, some people would say real stories, but much more older. And they borrowed them for the Bible. We can read it by Alexandria, in Alexandria, from Clement of Alexandria in Egypt. And this is the reason, for example, also, in the Egypt believings, the goddess Isis, which is the same picture. She has Horus, she held Horus exactly like Maria held Jesus. And Isis was officially born in the Egypt scripts on the 8th of September. And the Christian Church tell us that Maria is born on the 8th of September. So we have such a lot of similarities. This is unbelievable. I found more than 200 that it's sometimes I think we have to find ourselves the truth, which things could be really absolutely true and exact like this way, and which things could be possibility happened in another way. And what wanted to hide them from us?
Well, on that note, Hans Peter, I think that it's probably time to move on to which is a real shame because this is fascinating. And, I'd love to, well, we should drink a beer or go to some sort of coffee shop and talk about this for hours.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, because yes, it kind of makes sense what you're saying as well. Why completely rewrite things if, there's something else that you can use as a base text, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, look, Hans Peter von Liechtenstein, it's been wonderful talking to you and hearing about this particular book. It's been absolutely fascinating. But can you tell us about your website or your social medias that people can hook up with you at?
Yeah. We are on the way of building a complete new website for the US market in English. This will be called freiherrstudios.com. This is one of these, and the other one, the freiherrvonliechtenstein.com. And under these two addresses, you can find it, but it's not actually completed. Yeah, not absolutely completed. And other way, I think if something is interesting to read the book, if he can find it in every bookstore, on Amazon, whatever. And you would say, find out your own truth. That is a really fascinating thing. It is a trip. It is like a trip for life to find out that things. And for me, it brings joy. For me, it was amazing. Yeah. Every time I'm sitting there and we read new stuff, it's like, whoa, my God, it's so amazing. Yeah. What we find out today. This is the time of revelation. This is the apocalypse. And the apocalypse means not that atomic bomb falls and fire is overall. It means, in his own sense, etymology, it means revelation and nothing else. And this is the time for it.
Well, there we go. It's fascinating stuff, honestly. Well, Hans Peter von Liechtenstein, your full name. Thank you very much for joining me on Author Conversations. I've been Chris Abs, everybody. I think, get involved with it. Let's talk about it. You can see how quite emotional I am about thinking all about these various aspects of things that I've kind of believed throughout my life. And now I'm thinking, well, hang on a second. There could be different angles to all of it. So, Hans Peter, thank you for helping to open that up. Let's hope that people actually think about things in their own way as well, as you've said. So leave a comment down below, everybody. Get involved in the conversation, and let's see where we go from there. So, Hans Peter, thank you again for joining me. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, warm blessings to everybody, and God bless you. And I think the only thing right to handle it is to sit with friends, with the family together and discuss about it. Because Jesus said, if 2 or more people talk about me, I'm here. I'm here. I'm with you. And I think this is the time that a lot of more people do that. Yeah. So thank you very much.
No problem at all. Okay, well, thank you. And let's hope we meet again and talk about another book of yours. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you can watch more Author Conversations here.